Good evening, councillors, the executive, and those who are joining us in our virtual gallery. Welcome to the August ordinary meeting of council. Could I please ask you to be upstanding for the acknowledgement of the country and the council. I would like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the country of the Dharug. We acknowledge the traditional owners of the area and their forebears. We acknowledge their living culture and the unique role in the life of this region. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Almighty God, we ask you to be present in this council, direct and guide our deliberations. We ask you to grant us wisdom and sensitivity as we deal with the business of our shire. May each decision that we make advance the well-being of all our residents. This we pray. Amen. Councillors, welcome. But before we proceed with the agenda, it is my sad duty to note formally the passing of Ron Potter. Ron started off in a very fine way, being a Talbot lad, and grew up and was a resident of Talbot through his life. Importantly, though, he served the city of Maryborough and the Central Goldfields Shire with real distinction as city engineer, as the infrastructure. He was known to many of us for his unstinting generosity of time, of sound advice, of balanced care, and always readiness to support, to work with the community of which he was much loved. He'd been very unwell for a long time, and but nonetheless we mourn his passing. And besides, I was told that there has not been a funeral the size of his at Abbott Cemetery, and I think it shows the love and respect and care from our community. But our thoughts are with Diane and the family at this sad time. Councillors, apologies. I think we are a full house, although we know our CEO is in warmer climes. I think somehow going over Kakadu or bushwalking, so we hope she's having a good time and keeping warm. But otherwise, we are all here and in attendance. Disclosures of conflicts of interest, councillors. Any conflicts of interest? If not, confirmation of the minutes of the previous council meetings. The key one, of course, is to note the council meeting of the 26th of July, the last ordinary meeting of council. Any concerns, councillors, with the minutes? If not, we will confirm those. We don't have the minutes of delegated advisory committees. We don't have any petitions. So let's move straight to item 8, officers' reports. Item 1, a delegation of mediation council planning hearing for planning applications. Councillor seeking a motion. Thank you, Councillor Lovett. The motion you're happy to move?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to move that Council 1 adopts a procedure, delegation, mediation and council planning hearing for planning applications document to introduce a mediation process and revise the arrangements for the council planning hearing. 2, seeks a review of the policies and procedures in 12 months' time. And 3, notes that updates to the relevant instrument of delegation to provide greater delegation to officers to make decisions on planning applications will be made if it makes resolutions on this matter through the separate but related report to be presented.
Thank you, Councillor Lovett. Seeking a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Sproul. Councillor Lovett, invite you to speak to the motion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. This motion is a logical and sensible change to our current planning application processes. If this is voted in, it will see a streamline of our planning processes that hopefully will lead to quicker resolution of applications. Importantly, under our current processes, we don't have a formal mediation process, and sometimes that's very important. So if this motion is carried through, it will see a formal mediation process. So if there is any objections to the planning process, before it comes to council for resolution, we would get the objector and the applicant together to talk to see if there are issues that can be resolved. So this is a very logical, as I said, logical improvement to our current systems. But importantly, the motion also says that we will review in 12 months' time how this new planning process is working, and I have no doubt that it will see considerable improvement. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Sproul.
Through the Mayor. Yeah, this motion is about efficiency. Currently, if any planning project is subject to objection, as Councillor Lovett said, council officers present a briefing to the councillors and it's brought to an ordinary council meeting. This process can be slow and laborious, which can have an effect on the time frame planning matter is decided upon. The new way we see here will see any planning project with 3 or less objections be dealt with under delegation by the officers. The planning department will use their skills and experience to determine the outcomes of planning applications and will include the optional mediation process as described. Councillors will also have the option to call in any application should they feel that should come before council. So planning applications with more than 3 objections will be dealt with as current practice and will not change. I personally think this is a good decision and shows our commitment to improve in areas and create efficiencies for the community and ratepayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sproul. Any other councillors? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Item 8.2, which is the instrument of delegation and effect and update of instruments of delegation by council to staff. Councillor speaking your motion. Thank you, Councillor Sproul.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd move that in the exercise of the powers conferred by the legislation referred to in the attached instrument of delegation, Central Goldfields Shire Council resolves that 1, there be delegated to the community member, to the members of council staff holding, acting in or performing the duties of the officers or positions referred to in the attached instrument of delegation to members of council staff, the powers, duties and functions set out in that instrument, subject to the conditions and limitations specified in that instrument. 2, the instrument comes into force immediately upon council adopting the resolution. 3, on the coming into force of the instrument, all previous delegations by council to members of council staff, other than the chief executive officer, are revoked. And 4, the duties and functions set out in the instrument must be performed, and the powers set out in the instruments must be executed in accordance with any guidelines or policies of council that it may from time to time adopt.
Thank you, Councillor Sproul. Seeking a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Bella. Councillor Sproul, on the motion.
Yes, Mayor. This is a summary of all the delegations that council officers hold so they may perform their duties in their role. Due to the nature of the previous motion, the list needs to be updated to reflect those delegations. This list details the acts or regulations under which the delegations are made and includes the section and subsections applicable. This was done by Maddox lawyers.
Thank you, Councillor Bella.
Nothing further.
Any other councillors?
I'm against. What disturbs me is delegates may only decide an application if 3 or fewer valid objections have been received. I know that we can go and we can call it in to a council planning hearing if we so wish. But things do get through their cracks, and we've seen that. And I'm just concerned about the 3. If 3 or fewer valid objections have been received, so it's not 1, it's not 2, it's 3. So I just think that's a bit too many, and the reason is that I'm going to be against it because of the word 3. I think there should be less than that. The idea, the whole thing is good, but I don't like the idea of 3. That's all.
Okay, are you referring to the previous, the actual delegation itself, the previous one, or this is the summary of the update of the whole delegations, which is 8.2?
Mr. Mayor, 8.2.
Right.
It says it in 8.2. The words I just read out was S61(1), conditions and limitations, A.
All right, right of reply, unless any other councillors. Right of reply, councillor Spatter.
It's got me on notice, hasn't it? All I can write a reply is that the three were the nominated number from the previous motion that was agreed on. So this reflects that document.
Yeah, the previous one was a substandard one. This is just incorporating it. Yeah, so but I point noted. All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Point of order. I'd like to know where in 8.1 that is.
All that?
It doesn't state in 8.1 about the three. Doesn't state there. They're two different things.
Mr. I think we might call Mr. Irving. Do you want to comment on this one at all? Councillor Lovett, you've got some.
I'm sorry, but the move of the motion has failed the motion.
Yeah, which it should be. Yeah, and you're absolutely correct on that. So I will thank you for putting me up on that one. That is correct. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. For now that motion is, I will invite you, Mr. Irving, to just comment on it, just for explanation, so councillors are clear what that is, so we don't go away having taken the part of the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mayor. The first or 8.1 did talk to the change in delegations and noted that there would be change in delegation around the objectives aspect of things. The item 8.2 was the update to the instrument of delegation, which was a procedural thing to update the instrument based on the recommendation that officers put forward in 8.1.
Okay. Thank you for that. We'll now move on. 8.3, planning permit application 154-21, 28 Outram Street, Maryborough. Seeking a motion. Councillor Lovett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to move that council, having caused notice of planning permit application number 154-21 to be given under section 52 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987 and the Central Goldfields Planning Scheme, and having considered all the matters generally required, resolves to grant a planning permit and issue a notice of decision to grant a permit in respect of planning permit application number 154-21 for the land known and described as 28 Outram Street, Maryborough, for the development of the land for 4 dwellings and associated works in accordance with the endorsed plans and subject to the following conditions.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Lovett. A seconder? Councillor Stroud, I think he's got his hand up first. Okay, thank you. Councillor Lovett, full information.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I, like all my fellow councillors, have been up and inspected the site at 28 Outram Street, Maryborough, to see what is proposed to be done there. As this application fulfills all the requirements of the planning scheme and a lot of work and thought has been put into it, I have no problem in moving this motion. I think importantly here in Maryborough proper, we're going to have to get used to this sort of application. At 28 Outram Street, there is an existing house in quite good condition, but on an extremely large block of land. Now, as we have discussed at recent council meetings, not the least being at the last ordinary council meeting, in Maryborough itself, we have a critical lack of vacant land. At current uptake, my guess is in less than a decade, we're going to run out of open space in Maryborough. But historically, one thing that we haven't seen a lot of in Maryborough is what's called infill developments. And this is an infill development where an existing home will be demolished to either build a new residence or multiple residents, as is the case with this. So I think in the near future and the medium future, we at council are going to see more and more applications for these infill developments, and councillors will have to decide on the value of the existing home, not the dollar value, but whether it's historically important, whether it's culturally important to the area, or whatever the case may be. And in this particular case at 28 Outram Street, as I said, in my opinion, the applicant has done everything right in terms of the application he has put in, and I have no problems with it at all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Sproul.
Nothing further to add. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Other councillors? Councillor Lou.
I'll be voting for it, but the only thing that I think that the two-storey one, which is dwelling 3, just as you drive up there, it's going to stand out. It's going to be just going to sit out there like a little pimple. So whilst I agree with the whole concept of everything, and I agree that with Councillor Lovett, I just think the two-storey one may have been, or the whole 4 of them may have been just one story, but at the end of the day, I agree with it.
Okay, other councillors? Councillor Long.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I myself, like Councillor Murphy, will be voting for it. I have got reservations also about the two-storey dwelling. This is in regards to the shadow line that was discussed at our briefings. During the day, the lot next to it will have partial shadow from the two-storey building, and I think that could impact their gardening. Nothing will grow without sunshine, unfortunately. So yeah, I have concerns about that. We were briefed that the developer is proposing to lower the ceiling, and that may somehow help it a little bit, but yeah, I'm still concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Long. Other councillors? I'll put the motion. No one's speaking against it, so I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Item 8.4, planning permit application 002-22, 1 Clarendon Street, Maryborough. Councillor seeking a motion. Councillor Sproul.
Mr. Mayor, I move that council, having caused notice of planning permit application number 002/22 to be given under section 52 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987 and the Central Goldfields Planning Scheme, and having considered all the matters generally required, resolves to grant a planning permit and issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit in respect of planning permit application number 002/22 for the land known and described as 1 Clarendon Street, Maryborough, for a 2-lot subdivision in accordance with the endorsed plans and subject to the following conditions listed in the document.
Thank you, councillor Sproul. A seconder. Councillor Vella. Councillor Sproul, I invite you to talk to the motion, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This planning application is for a subdivision and dwelling at number 1 Clarendon Street, Maryborough. This application was assessed by the council officers and deemed to be a fit within our planning framework. There was one objection to the application, and I want to acknowledge their letter and ensure them that their concerns were carefully considered in the process. In this case, however, I believe all the relevant conditions have been met in the application and see no reason to refuse the request. This subdivision will make good use of otherwise vacant land and will help fill our residential land requirements.
Thank you, councillor Sprower. Councillor Bella?
I'll try and talk. I might lose my voice, but as councillor Lovett mentioned before, we have a shortage of houses and housing stock in Maryborough. And I think to encourage developers and owners to subdivide their homes and to further increase our housing stock is such a good thing, and everything complies with the planning and regulations, both state and local, in this motion. So I'm definitely for it. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Bella. You earned a strip, so if I had one to give you, but I haven't got one. Any other councillors? Councillor Lovett.
Mr Mayor, I will speak to this motion following on from the previous motion. I think it's something that we're going to be, as I said, increasingly cognizant of. One of the areas of this application is a vacant block. The reality is we live in a very conservative community where we have a lot of long-term house owners who have been in their homes for 50 years or more. And we're a community who don't necessarily like change. So with this and the previous motion, we're actually voting for something of a change. But I think it's fair to say that councillors are very aware, as both councillor Sproul and Lavella have said, we're very aware of the situations with the applications. Each of the councillors have individually been up and viewed the sites and have also taken into consideration the views of the surrounding neighbours. And I think, although I think we will vote in favour of both these things, it's something that council is very aware of. And in the future, if we find too many of these infill developments happening in clusters, council might very well vote accordingly at that time. But it's something I think we as a community are going to have to get used to, because we will see more and more of it. And the reality is, although progress has to be controlled, we can't stop progress. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Lovett. Other councillors? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Item 8.5, the Council Plan Action Progress Report. Councillor seeking a motion. Thank you, councillor de Villiers.
Thank you. I would like to move that. I would like to move that council note as detailed in the report an update on the status of the projects identified in the 2021-2022 action plan.
Thank you, councillor de Villiers. Seeking a seconder. Thank you, councillor Long. Councillor de Villiers, if I need to talk to the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to say that this is probably my favourite item on the agenda at ordinary council meetings when presented. It's always amazing to see how much has been accomplished during the year gone by, or the past year, and with actions completed that we can sort of look back on and reflect. And I would also like to extend my congratulations and a huge thank you to the council staff and officers for enabling this whole process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, councillor de Villiers. Councillor Long.
Nothing further to add, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Long. Any other councillors? Okay, councillor Murphy.
As I read this annual action plan against the council plan, council's annual action plan, says there's no legislative requirement to prepare an annual action plan, but this is good practice to manage and monitor progress against the council plan. Council has adopted annual action plans since 2018 to 19. but there is no legislative requirement to prepare an annual action plan. That's thing that just surprised me. There was no legislative requirement to do. We've got a legislative requirement to do the council annual plan, council annual plan. But this is annual action plan, which you don't have. In the end of the day, it could all be done through the council plan. I understand what it does, but you know, it can all be done through the council plan. I'm quite okay with it, but I'm just interested. That's all.
I think, Councillor Murphy, if I can comment on that. The issue is that the legislation, again, the Local Government Act provides councils have a 4-year council plan, but there's a lot in it. So to make it actionable, it's broken down because otherwise it'd be difficult to manage. So that's why that's why it's good practice. It just makes it more into bite-sized pieces, you know, where you're at. So I'd like to see anything more you'd like to comment on that. I think that's summed up. So does that answer? You satisfied with that?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. So now we Councillor Villa, did you want?
Yeah, I just want to say that I think it's testament to transparency, and I think it demonstrates that the officers are willing to keep us up to date and the community as to where we're heading in the council plan. I think it's great practice.
All right. Now, Councillor, did we pick you up as a seconder on that one? I think we got, I think with the question we got a bit derailed on that. So would you like to belatedly?
There's nothing further to add, Mr. Mayor. I think it's covered. Thank you.
Sorry. I couldn't remember whether we picked you up or not, but never mind. You're doubly covered on that one. Any other councillors? Not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Item 8.6, Governance Rules Draft amended 2022 in relation to virtual meetings, something we've been using a bit recently. Councillor seeking a motion. Thank you, Councillor Long.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to move the motion that Council number 1 endorse the first draft of the proposed amendment government rules for public consultation from the 25th of August 2022 to the 8th of September 22, and number 2, note a further report will be presented to Council at the 27th September 22 Council meeting to consider feedback and formally adopt the draft amendment government rules.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Long. Seeking a seconder. Councillor Vella. Councillor Long, invite you to talk to the motion.
Thank you. Through the Mayor. I'm happy to move this motion to endorse the first draft of the proposed amended governance rules and to note that a further report will be presented to Council at the 27th of September meeting. As we all know, COVID has changed many things in our lives over the past 2 years or so. One of those has been how meetings have been held, and Zoom has become everyone's best friend in that regard. I'm not a huge fan, but it is part of life, so that's it. But this has also opened up a whole new can of worms from a governance perspective. For example, what happens if a councillor drops out during a meeting? What happens if the mayor drops out, as happened? What happens if connectivity is lost during the whole meeting? So the COVID-19 Omnibus Emergency Measures Bill 2020, the bill passed both houses of the Victorian Parliament on the 23rd of April 2020, temporarily changing the operation of the Local Government Act 2020 in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. This enabled meetings to be conducted by electronic means and ensured council and other meetings could still proceed, and that information relating to council and other meetings could continue to be made publicly available. The introduction of live streamed council meetings to the public via Zoom to our Facebook page has also offered a new opportunity for the public to access and engage with council, offering a level of transparency using modern technology. So these draft amendments proposed to the Central Goldfields Shire Council's governance rules makes permanent the temporary provisions relating to electronic attendance and participation in council meetings that all councils have been operating under for the past 3 years, as well as a small amendment to apply more gender-neutral language in the document. And at our recent council meeting just last month, my fellow councillor, Councillor Vella, joined us via Zoom all the way from the US, and this is indeed a testament of how things have changed recently. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Long. Councillor Vella.
Yes, out of COVID, pardon me, out of COVID, so many positives. And as Councillor Long outlined, that we can attend any meeting anywhere in the world and keep up with the status quo. I was fortunate enough to be over there for a special reason, but I was certainly fortunate enough to attend council meetings here in this room, albeit 1 o'clock in the morning over there, but it kept me abreast of what was going on, so that when I came back, I didn't have to catch up with anything. So I think it's fantastic in that regard.
Thank you, Councillor Vella. Any other councillors? Not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. The item 8.7, the annual action plan 2022-2023. As is our practice, I'll invite in this case, the acting CEO, Mr. Smith, to introduce the annual action plan. Over to you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. This item, as Councillor Murphy talked about with item 8.5, is the annual action plan for the 22-23 year, and it is a plan where we lay out how we're going to deliver on the council plan. I'd like to acknowledge, the work of the Manager of Community Engagement, who's done a lot of work on this document, but also the leadership group who have worked together to develop this plan. The plan is also informed by the budget process, both for CapEx and OpEx, to resource some of the items within it. But also this year, to note, it also includes 7 major infrastructure projects. So not only are we looking at actions and deliverables, but also some of the key strategic infrastructure projects that the council have been looking at as well. And there's also extensive partnering in the community that's documented in it as part of the plan. There's 132 items, so it is a large amount of it, but it captures advocacy items, ongoing initiatives, and new initiatives. And as we do, it's reported and measured on a quarterly basis. So that's the context of it here, and I'm really proud of the document.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. The councillor seeking a motion. Thank you, Councillor Sproul.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that council adopt the draft 2022-2023 annual action plan.
Thank you, Councillor Sproul. Seeking a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Villiers. Councillor Sproul, I'll need to talk to the motion.
Through the Mayor. The annual action plan documents the programs, projects, advocacy work and services that council will deliver during the financial year. It acts as a planning tool as well as a reporting tool. This plan ties within the quarterly progress report and annual report, as well as align with the council plan. As Councillor Murphy stated before, there is no legislation forcing council to do this. But as the Mayor and Councillor Lavella noted, this makes things easy to manage and increases transparency and accountability. There are 7 infrastructure projects such as the Art Gallery Works, Skate Park and Talbot's Futures project. The plan identifies our advocacy focus, new initiatives, of which there are 88, and also document our ongoing ones too, of which there are 44. When reading the plan, each initiative can be tracked back to an item on the council plan. So this gives you the area of which the initiative falls under in the plan and the subsequent number and point for reference. Some of the plan highlights are launching the Youth Council, continued support for the World Heritage Bid, launch of Council's reconciliation plan, continued advocacy for better digital connectivity, and the station activation project, to name a few. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes to make all of this possible. And I'd like to thank everyone involved, from council officers, fellow councillors and community members. The synergy of all these groups is critical to the success of these projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sproul. Councillor De Villiers, sorry.
Nothing to add. Thank you.
Any other councillors? I think just a massive thank you to you and to the executive team and all the managers and staff that delivered that. People that took out roads, rakes and rubbish, goodness gracious, and everything else. So what a wonderful action. Thank you very much for delivering it all. Put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. 8.8, the Commonwealth Games expression of interest. Seeking a motion. Councillor Murphy.
The council endorses the 2026 Commonwealth Games expression of interest submission.
Thank you, councillor Murphy. A seconder. Thank you, councillor Lovett. Councillor Murphy.
2026 Games are going to be held in Victoria, and they're going to have regional hubs at Ballarat, Bendigo, Gippsland and Geelong area. I think if you watched the Birmingham Games just recently, and the highlight for me, especially very much younger days, I did run in the 1500s and 800s. When our local runner, Simon Hoare, I think it was, before, in the 1500 metres, the Australian was about 4 or 5 behind coming into the straight. He pulled out, he had a hard race. He pulled out and he beat 2 world champions. It was the first time that Australia has won that race since I think 1958 for Herb Elliott. We've had a third before, I think about in the 70s, but his courage and his willingness to be, I'm an Australian and I ran for Australia. It was just something that was very awe-inspiring. And there was countless others. There was our javelin throwers, when one of the girls who was in the lead for the whole games, the whole of the throws. She was an Australian girl. She was probably a third or fourth coming into the games as in the ranked. And the world champion, who was an Australian, on the very last throw, and the wind was in a different direction, the very last throw, went over the top and won that as well. And it's interesting how we as Australia can do very well in these games, especially with our population. And some people say that they're not worth anything anymore, but I think it develops the nation. I think the swimming is always a main thing. It develops competition. And I know for a fact after the Commonwealth Games and the Olympic Games, that people do start playing sport again. They might be going to little athletics now, thinking, I'll be that guy, or I'm going to be him in 10 or 20 years' time. And they might hop in a pool and go, well, I'm going to try harder and see where I can go. So we might have a bit of a grab at this. And what it is really is that there's 111 million to be spent on tourism and supporting events across Victoria in the lead up to the 2026 Commonwealth Games. The expression of interest process has been established to capture ideas for this investment. So just so it's noted, the EOI was submitted by the 12th of August deadline, and has been presented for retrospective endorsement. But I surely hope we can get a bit of this and a bit of the feeling for the year before it happens around our region. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Murphy. Councillor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. If you'll bear with me, I'll take a couple of deep breaths. I'm still suffering from the mental image of Councillor Murphy running in the 1500 metres. It's almost incomprehensible. But it just goes to show you at these special events anything can happen. There's an old adage that you've got to be in it to win it. And the beauty of these 2026 Commonwealth Games, as well as being held in Melbourne, they'll be held in 4 regional hubs. But importantly for us, 2 of those 4 hubs are equidistant from here, being both Bendigo and Ballarat. And it's very important that we put in this expression of interest, because if we don't show any interest, nobody will show any interest in us. So this is very important that we get this application in and let the government know that we are very interested in being active participants in the 2026 Commonwealth Games. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Lovett. Other councillors? Put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Item 8.9, the Mary Barrett Emergency Services Precinct, a letter of council support. Councillor seeking a motion. Thank you, councillor De Villiers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to move that council support the emergency services by way of letters of support and advocacy for funding for the planning and construction of their purpose-built Maryborough Emergency Services precinct.
Thank you, councillor De Villiers. A seconder? Thank you, councillor Locke. Councillor De Villiers, if I need to talk to the motion.
Thank you. The three key emergency services we have in the Central Goldfields are the CFA, the SES, and Maryborough Ambulance Services. Our community is growing, and as such, the demand for delivery of emergency services. Due to this and other factors, all three of these emergency services have outgrown the spaces they are currently occupying, hence the initiative to look at alternatives, as well as funding opportunities, creating an emergency services precinct. This initiative is fully supported by council.
Thank you very much, councillor De Villiers. Councillor Long.
Nothing further to add, Mr. Mayor.
Any other councillors? Councillor Bella.
I'd just like to note it is an excellent idea to get all the emergency services into one hub. I think it's worldwide these days. I certainly know it happens down in the big cities. All the emergency services can communicate with each other because they work together. I think it's an excellent initiative.
Thank you, councillor Bella. Councillor Murphy.
Just going on with councillor Bella, that in our briefing, we did talk about Morong. Just recently, maybe in the last 2 years, have got a hub there for their emergency services there. So it's not uncommon that the state government would look at this, and because they've already done it in Morong, and it's a new one there. So we look forward for a positive outcome of the state government.
Thank you, councillor Murphy. Other councillors? Not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. That concludes item 8, officers' reports. There are no notices of motion. Councillors, urgent business? No urgent business. Any other business, councillors? Councillor Sproul.
Through the Mayor, I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the contribution to our community from Ian Hoyland as a valued member of the Carrisbrook Lions Club. Ian tragically lost his life in a car accident 2 weeks ago. I didn't know Ian all that well, but I've spoken with him on occasions and often saw him driving Aston, the Lions Club train around, entertaining the children of our community. Most recently at the MDHS event for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders Children's Day. He was known for his dedication to the community and was a man that could always be depended upon. I offer my sincere condolences to all his family and friends. He will be sadly missed by all. I also wish others involved a speedy and thorough recovery, most notably Luke, who was unfortunately a passenger at the time. Knowing his family, he's in very good care. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Sproul. I'm sure we all very much endorse those comments. The 11.1, an advocacy letter to the Minister for Public Transport relating to passenger rail and growth opportunities. Council seeking a motion to note the letter. Councillor Bella.
I'll note this letter and recommendation that council note the letter to the Honourable Ben Carroll, Minister of Public Transport, and the issues and projects requiring support from the state government of Victoria. And I do believe that Mr. Mayor, you're going to speak to this. Is that correct?
I'm happy to do so, mate. I'll just thank you for that. I'll seek the second. Councillor Lovett. Councillor Lovett.
I'll hand it over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I'll follow that in due course. So, Councillor, thank you for that. Councillor Lovett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know you're going to speak to this motion, but I would like to thank and congratulate you for this letter, this very comprehensive letter that's been written to the Minister for Transport. I just remind members of our community that this council have been for a long time very strong advocates, firstly for the return of passenger rail to Maryborough, and since the return of passenger rail to see increased services. And I just remind people it's 2010 that passenger rail was returned to Maryborough, and Mr. Mayor, I stand to be corrected, but you were the Mayor at the time and played a very active role and continue to play a very, very active role in it. And just looking at the various things that you raise in it, Mikey activation. I remember just recently in the local newspaper, the Maryborough Advertiser, there was a letter from a concerned resident who had been up to the railway station early in the morning, early on a frosty morning, and was shocked that she couldn't buy a ticket because the office was closed and that there was no Mighty activation. And I must admit, I find it very unusual that a lot of us have Mighty tickets. I know I have a Mighty ticket but can't use it from Maryborough, and I think that's something that needs to be. It's only a little thing, but it's a very important thing. So once again, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for this letter, and I'll hand over to you to talk to the motion.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Love, and thank you for those comments. I appreciate it. Just before I comment, any other councillors? Well, look, thank you for those comments, both Councillor Delay and Councillor Lovett. Traditional strengths can become future opportunities. The history of gold, of which we know we've played such a central part, I believe we will play have a brilliant glittering future, particularly with the World Heritage listing. We're in the centre of equidistant between the two major gold cities, but in the heart of that gold rush. And Maryborough Station is destined, I think, to become a global destination of choice as it tells that story of gold as we equip it to do that. And what better and more magnificent facility than Maryborough Station, and how lucky we are to have it. But of course, rail has been part of Maryborough's history, a proud part of it. We know that the various destinations that Maryborough Station and Maryborough Rail has serviced. Then things went quiet for a while, as Councillor Lovett said. We've had return of passenger rail, we've had some increased services, and in the budget, a commitment to 4 weekend services, which hopefully will be implemented very soon. But certainly Mighty activation is something our community is seeking. Added weekday services is critical. One service in the morning to Ballarat and Maryborough and coming back in the afternoon is not sufficient. Ararat have 5. We deserve at least something approaching that. So that is an absolute priority. We believe in the context that Councillor Murphy talked before the Commonwealth Games. We believe that there is a good chance that the line between the passenger rail, which has been disused between Geelong and Ballarat, may be reactivated. If that's so, that would give us connectivity to not only for the Games, but as a legacy, which is a key thing, down to Geelong, and again have that as an opportunity, which will be wonderful. Mildura presents some challenges, but again is on a possible radar, and if that were to happen, obviously that would extend further. Similarly, there is a proposal to, if the Geelong sector happen, to then look as a subsequent stage to connect us through Denali, Inglewood, Eaglehawk, through the growing Morong sector into Bendigo. A bit more work to be done there, but that's a possibility. So certainly regional enhancement, but also then looking at freight possibilities. Our yard has been dismantled over time. It needs more work. It needs more investment and more tracks, and that's supposed to be happening, but needs to happen. Similarly, we also an opportunity for crew depot refueling activity that would add to economic benefit. And in the letter is a proposal that the government hands to council for community purposes the use of the former goods shed, and that we could use it to high value community purposes, possibly indeed for a van shed or for some other purposes. So a range of opportunities, both local, regional, but the proud tradition of rail and passenger rail and freight should become an opportunity for the future, and the magnificent Maryborough Station a draw card for the world. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, against, carried. There's no confidential business set down, so at 6:49 I'll declare the meeting closed. Thank you, councillors, thank you, executive, and thank you for those who joined us in the virtual gallery.